Good evening. We're going to call our planning board meeting to order. At this time, we'll do the roll call. When you hear your name, please say here or raise your hand. Thomas Thompson.
Present. I'm here.
Yeah, present, I'm sorry. Tamara Lipscomb, present. I know, feel like I'm in school. William Roach.
Here.
Joe Towns.
Here.
James Motley.
Here.
And Charles Fagg.
Here.
All right, tonight we need to have election of the 2026 chairperson. Is there a nomination?
I nominate Tamar.
I'll second it.
It has been moved and properly second that Tamara Lipscomb be elected as the 2026 chairperson. All in favor, let it be known by the sign of your right hand. That's the majority. Thank you all. Thank you. Election of the 2026 vice chairperson. Can I get a nomination?
Nominate Joe Townsend.
I'll second that.
All right. It has been moved and second that Joe Towns be our 2026 vice chair. All in favor, show your right hand. Any opposers? Seeing none, Mr. Joe Towns is our vice chair.
Mr. Towns,
Thank you. You gotta switch seats.
Get your name back. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. Congratulations, Jeff.
You too.
Thank you. Okay. This time we'll have the approval of our minutes from the October 15th, 2025 meeting. Someone move to approve our minutes?
So I'll move to approval.
Second.
Okay.
I have a question before we
Yes,
proceed. Drew, did they make a change to that statement on the, which we were talking about at the last meeting regarding the, if you had an existing subdivision and you were adding to it for clarification?
Yes, they, for clarification, they did move that it should tie in. So it does, and it's been approved by council, so adopted as is, it should now tie in regardless of an exemption. That was the pleasure of council.
Because that was actually different than what we had suggested, is that correct?
That is correct. And per our legal guidance from legal counsel for the city, it was recommended that it does not have to come back to planning board, while that is typical presentation, being that it was only an amendment to one item, being item number 4, it did not have to come back.
Okay. All right,
Yep,
thank
they
you.
had a majority preference that it tie in.
The motion, and we did have a second, correct? All right, all in favor? All right, that's the majority. Thank you. Our minutes from the October meeting have been approved. All right, now we will go into our items of consideration. And I will say to the audience, if you are planning to speak, that you limit your time to 5 minutes, and our clerk, Claudia, will be our timekeeper. All right, thank you. At this time, our first item of consideration, excuse me, is consideration of a conditional rezoning request for a property located on the corner of South Scale Street and Freeway Drive, Rockingham County parcel number 186630, to conditional zoning, highway business, CZHB, from a mixed designation of residential 20 R20 and highway business HB, docket number CZ 2026-01. Good evening, Drew.
Thank you very much. Excuse me. Mountain Jubilee Ministries Incorporated is petitioning to rezone a parcel located on the corner of South Scale Street and Freeway Drive Again, Rockingham County parcel number 186630. This is a new parcel number. It's been recently recombined to conditional zoning highway business from, as you stated, a mixed designation of residential 20 and highway business. The owner of the property is in fact Mount Jubilee Ministries, and this parcel encompasses a total area of approximately 11.66 acres. The property is currently undeveloped. However, a single-family residence previously existed on site and was removed within the last couple of years. If I recall correctly, this is the one the fire department burned. City water service is available in the right-of-way of Freeway Drive to the south and South Scale Street to the east. These are both DOT jurisdiction, so the approvals will have to come from DOT to bore under the street to tap. City sewer service is also available within the right-of-way of South Scale Street to the east, and a city sewer main crosses the northwestern corner of the property. As I mentioned, both of these streets are NCDOT right-of-way. I do not know if the applicant has already reached out to DOT to begin the process of obtaining approvals to tap underneath the street. There are no streams on site. However, the property is located in both the Jordan Lake and Troublesome Creek watersheds. The entire parcel is located in the Jordan Lake watershed and is subject to the Jordan Lake buffer rules. The majority of the parcel, around 95%, is located in the Troublesome Creek watershed that recharges Reidsville Lake. In the Troublesome Creek watershed, non-single-family residential uses, such as apartments, townhomes, and duplexes, and commercial uses are limited to a 24% built-upon area by the state's drinking watershed regulations. The intent here is to limit runoff from impervious surface and development during stormwater events that will ultimately flow into our drinking water. That's why we have that impervious surface limit. The proposed development for this site shall be in compliance with this standard. Additionally, the floodplain insurance rate map, identified as firm, indicates no floodplains. As you know, a conditional rezoning request amends the zoning map with site-specific conditions that are incorporated into the amendment. This allows the owner and developer to place voluntary conditions on the land with the intent of restricting allowable uses within the new zoning district or to ask for deviations from the standards of the ordinance. The owner and applicant get to choose which of the allowable uses for the district, in this case highway business, they would like to impose upon the land. This is a limited use conditional rezoning, and the applicant has requested to prohibit several of the highway business allowable uses for this site. They are indicated in the application as well as in the attached table of permitted uses for highway business. I will not go through all of them with you unless you have questions about specific ones, because it is a very long list. If you reference the table, the ones identified in red have been requested to be removed. Before I continue, are there any questions about the different uses that are proposed to be excluded or removed from this district?
Question.
Sure.
These removals will therefore hold throughout the entire zoning that's requested, and they cannot come back without coming to us to
Correct.
change that zoning. Is
For
that
this
correct?
parcel, yes. The
this
conditional
parcel.
zoning is specific to this parcel, but if they did choose to amend that in the future, they would have to come back and amend their conditional use for this property. The ones that are intact in the chart that do not have a red line or red color strike through, those will remain. Those will be the uses that they could potentially do on site. At this time, we don't know what commercial uses specifically. We have an idea of what's going to go there, but nothing, I don't think, is final. And the applicant can elaborate further on that. Do we have any other questions about uses before I continue? Nope. Hearing none, the applicant is not requesting to deviate from the allowable dimensional standards for the highway business district. Since this is only a limited use conditional rezoning and no deviation is requested, they do not have to require a concept site plan. There is one provided, and that's been done as a courtesy to give you a visual of what they're proposing, and they can again go into detail about that proposition and what the site's going to look like. But they did not have to provide that. That's been done as a courtesy. The proposed conditional rezoning aligns with goal number 2 of the Reidsville Land Development Plan to develop a strong local economy, as well as goal number 3, developing expanded housing options. This includes promoting development or redevelopment of currently underutilized areas and increasing professional opportunities. This property is located in Growth Management Area 3, which is classified as suburban, and Growth Management Area 3 surrounds the city center, primarily encompassing the areas to the south, north, and west of the city. GMA 3 is predominantly characterized by a mix of residential and commercial development or mixed-use development, and has ample vacant land available for new development. According to the Land Development Plan, GMA 3 provides an existing transportation network in place. I think that's evident. This is along 2 major thoroughfares for the city, Freeway Drive and Scale Street, as well as ample room to accommodate growth. Additionally, GMA 3 is suited for residential development and is located in close proximity to commercial, office, and industrial employment, as well as retail services. There is retail across the street, there's a school across the street, and then there's residential to what is the northwest, right behind the property. And then there's a church to the west. With this in mind, and considering the attached statement of reasonableness and consistency, the planning staff recommend the proposed conditional rezoning application be approved. And I'm happy to take any questions you have about the report. Please hold questions pertaining to this development for the applicant, as they will be able to provide you more clarity than I can. Are there any questions pertaining to the report? Thank you much.
Thank you. All right, at this time, is there anyone to speak for? Okay.
I believe we do have the applicant present. We have a Mr. Owens and a Miss Meader. Whoever would like to go first, just state your name, please.
I'm Jessie Metter. I'm the Executive Director at Mount Jubilee Ministries. Thank y'all for having us.
And we don't have a clicker, but you can use the laptop right there if you'd like to set it up.
Perfect. That's great. This was sent out from our initial mailing that we sent to the neighborhood. I'm Jessie Metter, Executive Director of Mount Jubilee Ministries. I'm not used to doing their pitch in a setting like this, so thank y'all for being here. Give you the high-level 5-minute background of who we are as Mount Jubilee. But we are headquartered in Reidsville. We have been in existence for 2 decades now, serving adults with intellectual and developmental disabilities. So that is a group of folks that have so much to give and so much love and energy and life to bring to our community. And so many times they're left on the outskirts. They aren't given the opportunities that help them live the lives that they can and should be able to live. So really, at the high level, that's the vision of what we're trying to create here on this property. Mount Jubilee Ministries, we were founded as a camp ministry. So we started with 1 week every summer. We did an overnight camp, and we've been all over the place with where we held camp. And we're still doing Camp Jubilee. We had 70 campers last year, and we'll have similar this year at YMCA Camp Haynes. We also have year-round day programs in Reidsville, Winston, and Greensboro. So we support the triad with plans to grow beyond that. We have in our multi-year plan to add location, to double in size essentially in our day programs, because there's such a need. There's not enough programs for after folks graduate high school. And, you know, we work on life skills, we do pre-vocational work, we go on field trips, volunteer opportunities, just really working on social networking, that really building that full life for them. The last and most recent piece of our vision has been the residential services, which we are piloting a service in Greensboro through a respite and residential home. So we're getting our feet under us in the residential realm to really provide a community for our folks. And that's really been part of the vision from the beginning. Our founder was a mom on a mission. She knew she was not going to be able to take care of her son for the rest of his life. You know, God willing, she was not going to be able to do that because he's going to outlive her. And as a Christ-based nonprofit, we are aimed at glorifying him in what we do through caring for these folks in the long run. So that piece of property has there's details in front of you. It would be residential and a work, live, play kind of model, where we would want the community to come in that work side. There may be a retail shop, a coffee shop, some place for people to come together and get to know our population. In addition to that, it would be residential. So where there is a residential zoning there, like we will be providing residential services. It is very much a mixed use case, but that's the next step in our growth, and we're excited to do that here in Reidsville. What a blessing to be able to bring something like this to our small town when we also work in Greensboro and Winston. So we hope this is the first of what could be many, really across the state. So we look for it to be something replicable over time. 1 minute. Any other questions?
And of course, the board may take their time asking.
Okay.
I do have a
Yes, sir.
question. Currently, how many participants are in your program here in Reidsville? And how many do you anticipate in the future?
In the future. In our day program, we serve around 18 throughout the year in our day program. From camp, we're at 70 campers, and I would say probably about a third of those are from Rockingham County. We would aim to serve 60 to 70 folks at the residential community.
So with the residential part, is that going to be folks that live there permanently or just for the camping? This is permanent.
It's
This is
permanent.
permanent, so
Yeah, we rent a space for camp, and we'll continue to do that.
I got you. So y'all will be this is kind of like transition them so they can be kind of independent.
Yes,
living.
yeah. The intent is for them to live the most independent life possible with the supports that they need.
Excuse me.
Yes,
How
sir.
many with the residential, what's the ratio of staff to residents that
That's
you
a-
want to have here on site once you get the residential set up?
That's a great question, and it all is dependent on exactly who's there. Some people need one-on-one care, and those people would have one-on-one care. Some people could have group care, but the most that would be in one home would be 3 people.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's not a group home, it's not a licensed group home, it's not that kind of environment. It is a traditional residential home.
I was kind of looking at it from the safety side, the ratio,
Yes.
and, being from the fire department, I'm kind of thinking, if something goes on,
Right.
can these people, is there going to be somebody there to help them to get out into whatever the emergency arises? So,
Yes,
that's good.
absolutely.
But what's the difference in you and a group home?
Number of people and really the environment and amount of independence. So you want people to live in the most independent place that they can live. And this provides more independence than a group home would.
And how many are you planning to house at the residential?
60 to 70.
Okay, wow. Well, I've heard good things about Mount Jubilee.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
It's really unbelievable. Whew. I won't preach up here, but it's good stuff.
A question. Have you gotten any pushback from the community at large based upon your, the presentation of the plan?
Yeah, we did hold a neighborhood meeting. That wasn't part of the requirement, but of course we want to be good neighbors, invite people to that conversation. And we only heard good things. And my comrade in arms here, Stephen Owens, he has data on who we invited and what that response looked like. But it was all positive during that meeting.
Good, thank you.
Not to say that none of the neighbors don't have unpositive feedback, but they didn't bring that to us. Yes, sir.
I do have an additional question. The residential facilities, what form will they take? Will it be 4 people per unit per your proposed
It
plan?
would be a max of 4 people per unit.
That would be the support person and 3 participants? Okay.
Yes, that would be the maximum.
And this will be open to individuals all over the Triad or anywhere in North Carolina or wherever? Okay.
I mean, really, other communities that we've seen similar to this, people move states
Yeah.
to come. because it's so desperately needed.
Absolutely.
This may be irrelevant. The question I have is funding. Is this something private funding, or do you have government support? How is this working?
It'll be a combination, just like everything we do in the nonprofit world. You know, there are grants and foundations that help support work like ours. There is, for the care side, there is Medicaid funding for that. So we're working to become a Medicaid service provider so that we can, you know, provide the people to give that care. So that'll be a part of the income. And then there are programs for our folks to live in independent homes that help, like SSI, Social Security income, that sort of thing. They already receive those funds. They would just use them to come to this location.
Okay.
Any other questions?
And lots of private donations, because that's the world, you know, the nonprofit world. That's what we live on.
Okay, thank you.
No other questions? Thank you so much.
Of
Thank
course,
you.
thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
My name is Cecil Cottrell. I live at 122 Lakeview Drive, Reidsville, North Carolina. And I would just like to say thank you very much for entertaining this proposal. I would be remiss if I did not stand up here and speak. I was not planning on it. Jesse did an amazing job. I can't imagine I would go to a public platform and not speak. Watch it. In November of 2015, I stood before, Miss Janice Bishop founded the organization 20 years ago. I began counseling at Camp Jubilee in year 3 or 4. The board came to me and asked if I would participate in the board, then asked if I would chair the board, and I said, only if we do more than 1 week of camp per year. And knowing the vision was residential, I stood before 200 people 10 years ago and said, Camp Jubilee is going to go from a camp ministry to a residential community. Not having, with a criminal justice degree and background, not having any idea how that might happen. As a cyclist, I rode all over the Piedmont, back before texting. That was safe. And I said, I wonder if it'll be here. I wonder if it'll be here. Winston, Guilford County, Rockingham County. No idea. We just laid it before the Lord. And as He and only He would have it, this property came open. It was the third property that we had looked at. The door had closed on 2 others. And I knew where it was, and I was like, I don't even want to go look at it. I knew who owned it still. And I go out and I see Welcome to Reidsville sign in the front yard. Probably a year later, I went in and met with our city manager. And it was during the Betting on Reidsville campaign. Do you remember that, a couple years ago? And I told her what the vision was and where it was going to, where we were considering, or I think where we had already purchased. One donor donated the funds for that land. And she simply said, I don't know of anything we would rather have behind the Welcome to Reidsville sign than your proposed residential plan. So that's simply all I want to say. It's going to be an amazing asset for not just Reidsville, not just the Piedmont, but for truly the state of North Carolina. Thank you very much.
Welcome.
And if you have any
Welcome.
questions, sir? Yeah. Any questions?
Thank you for sharing.
You bet.
Thank you.
Could not.
Hey, good evening. My name is Stephen Owen. I am a senior land planner, landscape architect. I work at McAdams. I actually live here in Rockingham County for over 20 years. Love this area. And so when I was found out about this project, was able to be involved in this project, I was very excited. So I just wanted to kind of take a minute just to kind of talk a little bit more about the specifics of site plan and kind of talk through some of those detailed sides of it. If there was any questions related to it. I know most of the questions have already kind of been covered. But I do, we did have a neighborhood meeting back in November. I don't know how to Yep, there we go. I was just going to let you know that we did actually reach out and invite. We kind of took a 1,000-foot buffer and reached out to about 85 neighbors that we invited out to it. You can see all the areas in the purple. The site is in the one in the orange. And we did have about 20 people that did come to that. It was over at Community Baptist and had as Jesse said, several questions were raised, had a good discussion and shared a lot of the concept plans and stuff like that I'll get ready to jump into. The other thing I was just going to kind of point out, we do have that list of the uses to be prohibited. I know that if there's any other questions, we're happy to kind of talk about that. Again, it's a long list that they wanted to go ahead and just eliminate just less than desirable uses or less than suitable uses for this property. Wanted to kind of proactively kind of eliminate that. But then this was kind of the heart of what I wanted to kind of share with you or show. This is kind of the vision that we have for this. This is a concept plan. As we've kind of mentioned, there is kind of the residential components that you can kind of see on the, I don't even know how to describe it in here. It's on the west side of the site. And then there would be that kind of multi-use building that would be more of that kind of retail commercial opportunity, kind of this live-work community. And that's one of the really unique things about this. I mean, there's really nothing like this in this whole triad area. And so this is really kind of a cutting edge opportunity to really have a wonderful kind of live-work development opportunity here for a community that so desperately needs it. And so if there's any questions about, kind of, again, this is a, I do just want to kind of add that this is, kind of the current vision, but as it goes through final engineering and some of the review processes, there may be some things that change. But this is the direction and the heart of what Mount Jubilee wants to see develop on this property. So I know this isn't really technically part of the rezoning, but I did just want to kind of help you understand the vision. If there was any questions related to that, I'm happy to answer that or kind of talk to that. I just wanted to kind of make myself available for it. Were there any questions related about that part?
The multi-use building, is that like dining facilities for the residents? Or?
At this point, the complete programming has not been completely determined, but it would be a mixture of opportunities for facilities for them to use, perhaps meeting spaces, gathering spaces, craft rooms, things like that, but also to have like perhaps a retail component, looking at maybe like a coffee shop, things that would be open to the public to come in, where they could actually kind of have a self-supportive kind of community atmosphere there as well.
Thank you.
In that multi-use building, how many square feet would you anticipate?
So it's about a 15,000 square foot footprint, and there may be some second level to it if there's perhaps some offices or something like that may be a part of it.
Okay.
So that's, again, that may change and fluctuate as programming and designs, but that's kind of what's shown on the plan right now currently.
And based upon that, what are your projections in terms of the number of businesses or activities that could be housed there?
Yeah, that's a good question. It's probably still a little too early to kind of determine exactly how that is, because some of that may be if there's, an office space or meeting space, or some of that may be retail, kind of that hasn't been determined at that point. It's a good question, though.
Any other questions? Good?
One additional question, I'm
Sure.
sorry. Based upon your planning at this point, I'm sure you checked with DOT. Based upon how this whole thing would be built out, you see no problems with traffic coming in and out of that area?
It's a great question. We have had some preliminary conversations with Jeremy Delap with NCDOT, who kind of reviews plans in this area. And based on what kind of that feedback was, we've actually shown, this is actually, I think, rendition maybe number 4 of what we looked at. So we've had several renditions to kind of get to this point. And through that process, we've kind of been reviewing, and there's been some shifts to the access. So what we've shown here looks to be the best access points to kind of keep the distance, site triangles, all those other things that are kind of part of that. So yes, we have been reviewed with that, and as part of the permitting process, it will have to get a final review with NCDOT before they even get the driveway cut. So there's still further review that will be vetted out and approved.
But you only have this one access and ingress and egress?
So at this point, yes. So at
And
this
it's on
point,
Freeway Drive?
There is a kind of a right-in access coming in off of Freeway Drive because there's a median there, so it's kind of limited. And then on Scale Street,
I see the one on
there's
St.
kind of
Mary's.
another right-in, right-out. Now that one, there is some stuff that's going to have to kind of get worked out on it. That's going to be a little bit challenging just because of other factors. But again, that's going to be, NCDOT will be part of that review process, and they'll be looking for all those factors to kind of work that in.
And this is actually behind that sign?
It is, yeah. Like if you look in that southeast corner, where it kind of around the sign is kind of right there where that cutoff is in the corner.
Okay.
So the sign is actually not on this property; it's on city-owned property or maybe in the public right of way. But sure, absolutely.
What's the planned development timeframe?
So that's a good question. There's kind of a process that would have to go through once there's some funding schedules that will be part of the limiting factor, but once the entitlement zoning part of it kind of moves forward and is approved, then it would have to go into a kind of a construction document phase where we'd have to kind of do that, and it may be 6 to 8 months. So I don't know that it would exactly when that time frame is, but it would be at least probably a year out before anything would start kind of moving forward.
Any other questions? Thank you,
right,
sir.
thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone here to speak against the rezoning consideration? All right, hearing none, board discussion.
I think they would be a wonderful addition.
Oh, I think so too.
Absolutely.
I'm real happy.
Is it too early to make a motion yet?
Hold on, do I need to read this? Okay. Just read it from the packet, okay. So would someone move to, accept the consideration for rezoning?
I make a motion to recommend the proposed rezoning be approved for the specific parcels to be requested zoning district based on consistency and reasonableness determination statements that are included in the council agenda package submitted during the rezoning presentation as may be amended, incorporated into the motion to be included in the minutes. And it's number Z 2026-1.
Okay, thank you. Second?
Second.
Okay. It has been moved and second, and so now we are ready for the vote. All in favor? Okay, that's the majority, no opposers. So the rezoning consideration has been recommended. All right, thank you. Good luck. Absolutely. All right. Our next item for consideration is of a rezoning request for 3 properties located on US Highway 158, Rockingham County parcel numbers 186-523, 186-524, and 186-525. And this is docket number Z 2026-01. Drew.
Thank you again. BMS Investment Properties LLC is petitioning to have an initial City of Reidsville zoning designation of residential 20 or R20 assigned to 3 properties located on US Highway 158, Rockingham County parcel numbers, as you mentioned, 186-523, 186-524, and 186-525. The owner of the property is BMS Investment Properties LLC. The owner is petitioning to voluntarily annex the parcels into the City of Reidsville corporate limit, and the property will require a City of Reidsville zoning designation upon annexation. The owner and applicant have submitted a petition for annexation and rezoning concurrently, with the understanding the zoning is contingent upon the approval of the annexation. And the first part of that, requesting the city clerk to begin the investigation process of the annexation, went to council this month. and they did move forward with that. They did not pull it from the consent agenda. So we are currently investigating the feasibility. This report tonight is just about the rezoning. I can answer some limited questions about the annexation portion, but we have not finished reviewing everything for that yet. It will be heard at council next month. But if you have questions about that, we can address those at the end as well. This report really only addresses the rezoning portion. So the parcels encompass a total combined area of 3.441 acres, approximately an acre and a little bit for each parcel. The land is currently zoned with a Rockingham County designation of residential agricultural and is undeveloped. It's been recently sold and subdivided, which is why it's now 3 parcels as compared to 1. It was originally 1. Water service is existing or available within the right-of-way of US 158. However, this is not City of Reidsville water main. Connections to this water would need to be applied for through Rockingham County and approved through Rockingham County. City sewer service is not available. This has been noted to the applicant that they would have to obtain a septic permit through the county. This property is in the Jordan Lake watershed and the Troublesome Creek watershed, but there are no streams or riparian buffers on site. The floodplain insurance rate map, identified as firm, indicates no floodplains. To speak a little bit briefly about the watershed, this is not included in your report because we've heard it time and time again, but there is a built-upon area allowance for the watershed. For single family, it's 2 units an acre. Our standards are a little bit less strict or restrictive than the county's, which is part of the reason they are petitioning to be annexed into the city, because they can build 3 decently sized single-family homes here, as compared in the county, they can get 1, potentially 2 with an approved variance of some kind, but they're really held to 1 per comment from the applicant. This proposed rezoning aligns with goal number 3 of the Reidsville Land Development Plan to expand housing. This includes expanding the housing stock and providing a variety of housing options that are attractive and affordable to people of all income levels. This property is located in Growth Management Area 5, and we don't really deal with 5 a lot. 5 is the conservation area, which surrounds the city periphery, primarily the areas that encompass the lake, to the north, west, east of the city. GMA 5 is predominantly characterized by residential development and undisturbed natural areas with ample vacant land available for low-density residential development, which is what's been proposed here, is a low-density residential development of 3 houses. With GMA 5, protecting and preserving the watershed and reducing stormwater runoff is a priority, and this development proposal is in alignment with our watershed regulations, as I mentioned, for less than 2 units an acre. And it does not pose a threat to the city's watershed or drinking water supply. Staff find the proposed conditional rezoning to be consistent with the Reidsville Land Development Plan, reasonable and in the public's interest based on the aforementioned information provided in this report and the attached statements of reasonableness and consistency. We do recommend that the application be approved. And I will take questions about the rezoning, and I can answer some questions, depending on what they are, about the annexation. Again, staff is still working through the annexation process.
Ruth, I'm gonna have to go against this. I'm not in favor of it. I'm looking at response times. I wanna know what the city's gonna get out of 3 houses. I mean, there's not enough taxpayer. If they were putting 10, 15, 20 homes in there, I could see that, but we've got fire protection, police protection, we got streets, we got hydrants, we got sewer, we got everything else, and it's just, to me, it's not feasible for the city to approve this rezoning.
And I can provide you some information on that. So that is some of the information that we have about the annexation. There is a hydrant located at the corner of this property that taps that main that runs down
How far is
158.
the house is gonna be off of that, from that hydrant?
Less than 100 feet. It's directly in front of the property. This development would be approximately 2.7 miles from Fire Station 3. We have existing satellite annexation development to the north of the city that is 3.3 or more miles from the closest fire station. So this is closer to Fire Station 3 than the existing annexation on Crutchfield Road. That is not to say that the fire department does not feel it would be a bit of a strain, but they are not outright opposed to the annexation. There would just be some considerations as far as providing service. The police department has not provided any feedback indicating that it would be difficult. It is within our 5-mile boundary that we can annex and provide service, and it is within the additional 1-mile boundary that the police already can provide service for. Speaking on utilities, as I mentioned, sewer is not available. They've been made aware they would have to get septic. We do have other existing septic within the city of Reidsville. We would request an agreement, if this moved forward with them, to go ahead and reach out to the county about that water service, or they could do a well. We do allow well inside the city as well. Speaking with Public Works, they have determined that trash pickup would not be an issue. We would not be maintaining those roads, so the only strain for Public Works would be trash pickup, and they do not feel that that would be a strain. So fire department does have a few concerns about response time, but this particular annexation is no further than other annexations that we already have existing within the city. It's approximately, if you measure in linear feet from the city limit line, which ends around the Liberty Road annexation that happened a few years ago, approximately 1,600, 1,650 feet linear from that point, and the annexation off of Crutchfield Road is exactly the same, approximately 1,600, 1,650 feet from the city limit line. And that's actually measuring from another satellite annexation. If you measure directly from the city limit proper, it's over 3,000 feet. So all in all, there are some challenges to address specifically, maybe with the fire department. But we're working through that as staff, and this annexation mirrors some of the other annexations that we've had over the years. So I do not feel, from a zoning standpoint, that it is a difficult request. The fire department, as noted, had a few concerns, but we haven't heard the same concerns echoed from the police or from Public Works.
Another question, and correct me if I'm wrong,
Certainly.
but I was told today that this group went to the county, and the county denied them. And now they're coming to us and everything else, so.
The standards for the county and for us are different in the watershed, so they could not build to the density that they'd like to build to in the county. The annexation is voluntary, so yes, they do have the right to petition us. This was not, as you know, with all annexations, the city doesn't go out seeking people to be annexed into the city. This is an opportunity to allow for some development with a developer that we have worked with before that is a reputable developer. In my experience working with him over the past 3 years, he's built very nice homes. These are not cookie cutter one-offs. These are very nice homes. So that's the information I have to provide on that. It was voluntary.
Drew, this little part right here that's shown up in lime green, is that the parcel that you're talking about from Liberty Road?
Could I reference what you're looking at? Yes. Yep, that would be the Liberty Road annexation for the potential development over 400 homes in a 3-phase step that was brought before you several years ago. I don't have any updates for you on that, and it's not directly relevant to this hearing tonight, but that is where the city limit line currently falls.
Excuse me a minute, I think I just stuck my foot in my mouth. You're talking Liberty Road, I'm thinking off of 158 right before you get to Lake Reidsville.
It's in the approximate same area, but it's on the city of Reidsville side, not on the other side.
Okay.
Yep, once you leave the city limit boundary, if you're driving, I drove it, the Public Works Director drove it, it's 3 to 5 minutes from the time you leave the city limit proper. We do have ETJ out there, where we have some service that's provided. So from the ETJ, it's only about 2 minutes. So it's really not that far from the existing city limit proper.
This parcel of land, this is below Monroe Elementary. This is
Right below it.
This is between Monroe and Lake Reidsville.
Yep, it's a few parcels down from it, actually, yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
You mentioned that access was about 1,600 feet. A couple of instances. That's less than a third of a mile.
That's in linear feet, so that's
feet.
measured not across roadways or
Right.
travel ways. That's directly measured as a beeline from the nearest city
Right.
limit line.
Okay.
In miles from the city limit, it's less than 2. From the nearest fire station, it's 2.7.
Okay.
You're excluding Lake Reidsville from that because Lake Reidsville's.
Yes, I did not
technically part of the
include
city
Lake
limits.
Reidsville. If I wanted to measure from Lake Reidsville, we're talking like 300 feet. So I did not include Lake Reidsville. That's not There's not housing out there, there's not services on the lake, so I'm not measuring from Lake Reidsville. That is correct. And it's also worth noting, for the audience as well as everyone attending this meeting online, with annexations being voluntary, this request and the rezoning only applies to those 3 parcels, those 3.4 acres. This does not affect the neighboring property owners in the sense that we will not require neighboring property owners to annex. This does not change the zoning for neighboring property owners. This does not require neighboring property owners to tap onto utilities or pay city tax, to convert to city garbage pickup. This is only for this property. If you look at the surrounding area, it's all single-family, low-density development, exactly what's proposed here for this site. It's, in our opinion, in alignment with what's in the surrounding area. There have been some concerns over the years that I feel like may come up, and I'll be transparent and address them with you now, that the city annexes, small satellite annexations all around our jurisdiction, and it's a little piecemealed together. Back when we used to do non-voluntary annexations, I cannot speak for the city's reasoning as to why they chose to annex some parcels. But as far as these parcels and the ones you heard just a couple months ago, where there were annexations involved, it's all for the potential development. These are people wanting to bring houses into the city of Reidsville. It might not be a significant tax base increase, but it is an increase nonetheless. We do have to provide some service out there. But in speaking with the other departments here in the city, it does not appear to be a significant strain. There will be some challenges to address, but nothing that is a hard no.
What'd you say about density, as far as how many houses?
It's only 3.
Okay.
It's a very small 3-acre parcel. It was divided recently into 3 1-acre, 1.1 acre parcels. Being that it's in the watershed, they wouldn't be able to develop it at the density that they want to in the county. So they're looking to come here. They can get the 3 houses. That's all they can get. That's all there will ever be on this parcel. That is maxing out the density for what they're wanting to do based on the way that they're laying out these parcels. They would not be able to squeeze another one in there.
North Carolina, the state of North Carolina no longer allows cities to involuntary annex, is that correct?
Correct. In essence, yes. There's a process for that, but it is
It's
really
arduous.
not feasible.
Right.
Yeah. So when I say that involuntary annexation doesn't exist anymore, it's not feasible for the city to do so. Yep. So every annexation you hear, or you don't hear them, but that you hear of, and every rezoning that accompanies an annexation, it is voluntary. We've talked to the applicant for one reason or another. Either staff suggests you might want to pursue an annexation, or they come to us and they say, we're interested in annexation. We have internal processes for that we're working through, and then there are external processes as well. One other thing that I know has been mentioned with some of the people who have called and asked about this, and some of the people that I've even spoken to tonight before the meeting began, is about the runoff. Currently, this site is wooded. There is I don't know if it's an established retention pond, but a retention pond type feature on site. It's my understanding that where they're looking to develop on this site would leave that alone. That is in the back of the parcel, towards the back, and that's where currently it is a somewhat sloping, slightly flat, somewhat sloping property where the runoff goes towards that retention pond. It's my understanding that would remain. Again, being in the watershed, we have regulations and procedures for ensuring that the runoff is not excessive. If it were, they would have to take measures to prevent that through their stormwater management. So we don't see any issues with the stormwater, not as it's been proposed. Are there any other questions? I'm happy to continue to elaborate. Thank you
Drew.
kindly.
Is there anyone here to speak for this rezone request? Is there anyone here to speak against this rezoning request?
We did have 2 names on the list.
Okay.
If you do not wish to speak, you certainly don't have to. We had a Mr. Denny and then a Cecil. And those were the 2 that signed in to speak.
I live on the 7 acres between this property and the city lake. And the water zone up there, the flood zone, that pond up there that they've got built for the overflow. And I don't see how you could build a house between that pond and the upper end that attaches to the big 92-acre farm behind it. So it would have to be out there on the highway. And the concern that me and my other neighbor, he lives on the other side of the property. Some of you, if you're old enough to remember the Drop-In Grill, that's where he lives. And right behind that. And of course, the flood zone is the problem that we see. How would you build a house in there when you're only about 400 feet maybe from the highway to where that pond is at? How would you build 3 houses there? And that was the only concern I've got. And I think the Suttons agree with what I'm saying. But somebody needs to look at that pond and look at how small of a lot that is to put 3 houses on. So anyway, that's my question.
Thank you.
My concern.
Yeah, sure. I would, Cecil Cottrell, actually have been fortunate to have access to the 97 acres that is right behind these 3 lots. And I would just simply address the pond. You've got the highway. You do have, and I don't know, maybe 100 to 150 feet to the pond dam. And then it's a retaining pond that is typically empty. But there are occasions that it's 3 or 4 feet of water in it. It's not just, there's not a steady stream by any means, but that water comes from somewhere and that area fills. And I'm along the lines with Mr. Denny. I would not, I mean, what a future landowner or homeowner might not know about that property is what concerns me. That's what concerns me. I'm not necessarily opposed to the housing or the annexation. I'm opposed to what they might find out after they purchase something. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
And I can, again, provide any additional clarity that you might need as you discuss based on the information in the report.
Board discussion?
Drew, where is,
I don't think this mic is picking up.
Okay.
Let me come right back up here.
where's the petitioner?
The petitioner could not be here tonight.
Okay.
But if you have specific questions, I can try to answer them for you.
You did say earlier this property is not considered in a floodplain.
It is not in the
Right.
floodplain.
But as far as a pond goes, or retention pond, you don't have to be in a floodplain to.
That is
In that
correct.
type of situation.
Yep, the retention pond is more so due to, from my understanding, the watershed and the proximity to the lake. Obviously, around the lake, there will be fluctuating levels, high and low levels. And with rain and runoff into the lake, you do have water that flows across these neighboring properties that abut the lake into the water body. That retention pond, again, it's my understanding they don't plan to do anything with that. There was a couple of different distances thrown around is not the word, were provided, regarding from the road edge to the pond. It is a couple of 100 feet. In the city of Reidsville, for this particular zoning district, you have a front yard setback of about 30 feet-ish, and a rear yard setback 30 to 40 feet. So that's about 70 feet. In reality, you could have a house that's 100 feet long and still not approach the dam. So there is a consideration of that as well. That if they were to build to the setback standards within the city of Reidsville, unless this were a massive structure, each of these houses were a massive structure, you would still have approximately 40 to 100 feet between the rear of the developed portion of the property and the retention pond. That's typical.
So just a
for what we
thought, you know, yes, in the city it's 30 feet, but you're talking about Highway 158 here. You're talking about a major artery. 30 feet prudent for a developer to,
They can certainly set it back further. They don't have to stop at 30 feet. They can certainly set it back further. And I do believe, based on measurements that we have taken from GIS, which are approximate, within 5 or so feet, that the structure next door, I believe it was referenced, I don't have the name of that structure, but it is approximately 40, 50 feet from the roadway, or from the right-of-way. So I would assume they would set it back about the same, which still leaves you with 50, 80 feet from the dam, depending on the size of the structure again. And it's my understanding, not to put words in the developer's mouth, but these would be moderately sized homes. So,
the dam actually would face the house. It wouldn't face away, like down into the, down
I'm
towards the
not
lake.
entirely sure of the orientation of how it fronts. I haven't been on site for the property, but from GIS aerials, it does look like it would be visible from the house. It's an earthen dam,
Right.
so it's not a man-made
Right.
structure, impervious structure.
So why was the developer, what was their reason for not being here tonight?
I do not know.
I mean, they knew the meeting was here.
They received the letter as well. I don't know.
I don't know. Seems like to me if he was that concerned about doing it, somebody with his company would have showed up to speak.
I can't speak for him as to why.
And I understand that, but the other question I've got, if this goes, do we have any idea of what kind of tax base the city's going to draw off of this property concerning what we're putting into it?
I do not know at this time. I'll be honest with you, I'm not on the financial side of things.
And I understand that.
And I
understand
assume
that.
it would have something to do with the structure that's placed there. But I don't have any numbers for you at this time. And I don't know what the property will sell for either. I don't know what it will be assessed at upon completion of the project.
I guess you're not familiar enough with the topography out there to know, is the water flowing into the pond coming from where the houses would be, or is the dam blocking it away from the house?
The higher portion, it is slightly sloping. The front portion is flat where the development would occur. It's more flat at the roadway. It does slope back towards the lake on the backside. So the highest portion would be where the development would occur, where the houses are.
Thank you.
And then it would slope back away from the house towards the lake.
Thank you.
And that's where the dam's positioned, back away a few hundred feet, a couple hundred feet to the lake.
Are there any other questions for the board? More board discussion?
I understand you don't know enough about the developer's plans at this point, but other than the concern about the retention pond and the impact that it has, do you see any flags or red flags that would pop up in your mind, given the fact that we don't know the exact planned development plans? Do you see anything that would?
From a planning perspective, no.
Okay.
From an environmental perspective, no. There are watershed regulations in place. This will follow those. So that should not create any undue or excessive runoff. As I mentioned, I talked to the other departments. The only department that had a concern that I wanted to make note of was the fire department. Looking at distances and response times, he felt that it might be a slight strain, but it was not in no way completely infeasible. Looking at the distance from the existing fire stations and what have you. I did not receive any negative feedback from the police department, not at this time. And Public Works was in full support. They do not see an issue with providing trash service out there. So
Drew, would it be possible for us to table this or maybe add it to next month when the developer can come?
You certainly could. I can't speak to his availability if he would attend at a later date or not. The annexation will be heard at council.
Okay.
It's preferable to have a rezoning
Recommendation.
accompany the adoption or the annexation of a property, while we can have a slight delay if it were to be tabled, and then the annexation were to be approved, and then for some reason this were to be denied from council. We would end up in a situation where we have a property that's on a shot clock essentially to receive a City of Reidsville zoning, or it could remain without rezoning and they could do whatever they'd like out there,
Okay.
is how that would work. So.
Hold on, run that by me again.
So we're on a shot clock when something is annexed. I couldn't give you the exact number of days, but we have a small window to assign it a City of Reidsville zoning designation. If we fail to do so within that window, it remains without a zoning designation, which means our ordinance standards would not apply to that property.
So what you're saying is if the city says, yes, we'll annex it, how many days do we have to assign? How many days do we have to assign a zoning?
I don't know the specific number. I want to say it's 90 at most, but that is to get through the entire process again, speaking with the applicant, having them resubmit everything, bringing it to you, and then taking it to council, which is typically a 60-day process. So in theory, you could table it once, and it might not be a problem, but I wouldn't be certain of that.
If we deny a zoning request, how does that affect the annexation?
They would have to start back over and seek a new zoning.
Before they can be annexed? Or
No, the
can-
annexation happens first.
So the annexation,
That is the risk that the city runs. You annex something, then you don't assign it a zoning designation, and then it does not have to comply with any of the standards in our ordinance.
So you're saying if we vote to deny this request, that's it? I mean, they.
No, well, you just provide a
the
recommendation.
city could still
Then the
annex
council
it.
can override.
You're not hearing the annexation, yeah, you're just hearing the rezoning request. So the annexation will go to council regardless of your decision tonight. And again, your decision on this is a recommendation to council based on the evidence that you've heard. Now, if council decided to deny the rezoning request, then we would start that shot clock to redo the entire process and assign it something. And that's the risk that the city runs in annexing things and having advisory boards and council review these things. If the rezoning is not approved, we start the process again to assign it something. And then you're really in a situation where you take what you get or you don't get authority over it.
So basically what you're saying, we can give a recommendation for rezoning.
Or not, you
Or
can
not.
not.
Well, let's say we give a recommendation. Then city council has the option of, yes, we will annex, or no, we will not annex.
Correct.
If the city just says we will not annex,
This dies.
basically this dies.
This
Is what you're
dies.
saying.
Yep.
And what you're saying is if the city does annex, then our recommendation of having it at the lowest housing density is what will be presented to them for
Correct.
approval.
Yes, and I'm presenting it at the lowest
Lowest.
possible density. It complies with the watershed regulations. There are some concerns. We will work with them to make sure they're in compliance. But that's essentially how the process works, and it's a little bit,
Excuse me, y'all.
Contradictory.
Hold on, she's speaking. Okay.
no, you're fine, I apologize. It's a little bit contradictory. I know it can be kind of difficult to explain and even more difficult to understand sometimes. But with the annexation process, that's how it works. You have a certain number of days to assign something. We assign something, this being the lowest possible density in compliance with everything else that's in the area. This is lower density than what you're gonna see at Liberty Road when that development ultimately happens. If you don't assign something, if council doesn't assign something, we gotta figure it out.
If we say no, and then no zoning is assigned to it, as you said, anything
Anything.
could be built there,
Because
such
it'll be a
as,
non-existent
such
district.
as a dump,
Anything.
industrial.
Anything could go there. Now, they'll still have to comply with the watershed standards because
Right.
that'll come from the state. But as far as our zoning regulations go, we would have no authority to dictate what goes there. It could be commercial,
This
It can
is
be a
this
partner.
is giving us a chance to assign it something.
This is
what you're
giving
saying.
you a chance to look at what has been proposed, which we've been kind enough to share with you. For a straight rezoning, we didn't have to say what was gonna go there, but the applicant was comfortable with it, we were comfortable with it. This is giving you a chance to see what's gonna go there potentially and decide if you want to assign it this lowest possible density zoning district, or if you don't, and council doesn't, we can start that clock if they choose to annex it and bring it back with another recommendation, but there's nothing lower density that I would be able to present to you. This is
So-
the lowest density.
So the best protection for the adjacent property owners would be for us to approve it.
That would be a decision for you to make.
I mean,
I can't speak on that.
we know what's going there, otherwise you don't.
Right. That's-
Staff has tried to be very transparent with the process. The applicant's been very transparent with the process, telling us what's gonna go there, what their plans are. I won't say that it's 100% ideal for again, all departments or all parties involved, but considering the request for annexation and really the growth of the city, you see the city growing to the west. If there are to be future annexations, we've seen over the years that they're coming from the west. They're coming around the lake. It's where we're getting the large housing developments. We've had Gibbs Lake Road over there recently, you heard last
just did
year.
that one.
We've got Ashcroft developments, plenty coming that way. Park Place expansions, Liberty Road, whenever that kicks off. That's the side of the city that we're seeing the growth. So while this is a satellite annexation now, 10, 15 years from now, it very well may be within the proper city limit. That is where the growth is happening, to the west.
All right, thank you, Drew, so much.
Thank you again.
Those
We've had-
that spoke, probably your concerns should be addressed with city council. That's probably where your proper course of concern.
And I can certainly give anyone that would like to speak with the developer their contact information if you'd like to make any comment to them about the environmental aspect, because it seems like you're both coming from an environmental perspective. I'm happy to sit down with you and walk through that and talk to the developer, connect you with them, or relay your concerns. I'm more than happy to make sure that those are addressed because I empathize and I feel the same way with it being in the watershed.
All right, at this time, I'm gonna ask or entertain a motion for the consideration of the rezoning request for the 3 properties located on Highway 158.
I'll make a motion to recommend that the proposal, amendment case Z 2026-01 be denied.
Is there a second? All right, hearing none, that motion dies. Can I get a motion to approve the consideration for rezoning requests for the 3 properties located on US Highway 158?
Chairman, I'll make a motion to recommend the proposed rezoning be approved for the specified parcels to the requested zoning district based upon the consistency and reasonableness determination statements that are included in the council agenda packet submitted during the rezoning presentation and as may be amended, incorporated into the motion to be included in the minutes.
Second.
All right, it's been moved in second. It's time to vote. All in favor? Right hand. Any opposers? All right, thank you. All right, the rezoning request has been recommended. All right, thank you. Our last item of consideration is of a text amendment request to amend Article Number 3, Section 8 of the Reidsville zoning ordinance to include new standards for clear gutter, docket number T 2025-07. Sorry, Drew.
Thank you again. Last one for tonight. I know it's been a long one. And you've probably heard quite a bit about this one in the community. So please, any questions that you may have, I'm happy to walk through the process. We've engaged in a lot of conversation with council, conversation with staff, and other members of the public as well. about this policy. So we can certainly walk through any questions you have. Staff has been asked to review and amend the City of Reidsville's current clear-cutting policy, which is located in our Reidsville zoning ordinance. As our city continues to grow and develop, it is essential that our land management practices balance economic development with environmental stewardship, community well-being, and long-term sustainability growth goals. The newly proposed policy is divided into 3 sections, and we will walk through it step by step to make sure that you have absolute clarity on the issue. Section 1 outlines the general requirements to obtain a clear-cutting permit from staff and is in line with our existing provisions, providing several existing exemptions from the clear-cutting standard. Section 2 provides provisions for clear-cutting of residential properties, outlining a new exemption for clear-cut properties that are developed within 3 years of permit issuance. And Section 3 provides provisions for clear-cutting of commercial and industrial properties, specifically those that abut residential, providing an exemption for clear-cutting of properties that are developed within 5 years of permit issuance. Section 4 is carried over from our existing policy and outlines the violation procedure for properties that are clear-cut without staff approval or the issuance of a clear-cutting permit. And now we will walk through the sections. If at any point you have a question about a section, please stop me. I will be more than happy to address them individually. So back to Section 1, general requirements. This is what's existing. We mirrored what's already existing. This is in compliance with the current ordinance. So the following general requirements exist for clear-cutting activity in all zoning districts. Number 1, a clear-cutting permit must be obtained prior to any logging activity on any non-exempt parcel within the City of Reidsville's planning jurisdiction. Our planning jurisdiction is not just the city limits proper. It includes our extraterritorial jurisdiction, which is approximately, it's not even, but it's that 1 mile buffer around the city.
What would be an exempt parcel?
We're getting,
I'm sorry.
you're fine, you're certainly fine. That's a great question. There's several things that are considered exempt. So prior to the issuance of a clear-cutting permit, the applicant must present all required documentation or permits from the North Carolina Department of Environmental Quality for review by the City of Reidsville planning staff. This is going to be your erosion control to make sure that specifically if you have properties in the watershed or something, that they have proper erosion control measures. Number 3 is the required tree buffer zone shall not exceed 20% of the tract acreage, net of public road right-of-ways, and any required conservation easements. So keep that in mind. Even where a buffer is required, and this is how it currently is, 20% of the total tract acreage is the maximum amount that we can make up the buffer. So if you have a really large parcel, that's a more significant amount. But if you have a smaller parcel, that's a very insignificant amount. You might only have to do a buffer on one part of the property. Number 4, perimeter buffer zones that adjoin public road right-of-ways shall be measured from the edge of the public road right-of-way. Perimeter buffer zones that adjoin private roadways shall be measured from the property line. Number 5, properties in which the total acreage, this is one of the exemptions, prior to the original adoption of this ordinance, which is, I believe, 2006, which is 2 acres or less, are exempt from the requirement of this ordinance. So you have a 2-acre parcel, 1-acre parcel, 1.8-acre parcel, it's exempt. Number 6, a survey of individual trees is not a requirement of this ordinance. So we would not require anybody to go in with the Forestry Service or a private party and survey the trees. This ordinance will not deny reasonable access into and within the subject property. What that means is they can still have an access road cut through a property. That doesn't classify as logging activity for the purpose of accessing and utilizing their property. And then number 8, this is the other exemption. Forestry activity on property that is taxed on the basis of its present use value as agricultural, horticultural, or forest land under Article 12 of Chapter 105 of the North Carolina General Statutes, and forestry activity that is conducted in accordance with a forestry management plan prepared or approved by a forester registered pursuant to Chapter 89B of the North Carolina General Statutes are hereby excluded from the requirements of this section. To put all of that into a much more digestible format, If it's under a forestry management program, whether it's under Article 12 of Chapter 105 or from a private registered forester, it doesn't have to meet these standards. Okay, this is where we get into the new stuff. So Section 2 of this amendment is for residential properties. So a tree buffer zone shall be required for undeveloped residentially zoned properties of 25 feet along all property boundaries and right-of-ways. It shall be unlawful to remove trees from undeveloped properties within this required buffer zone prior to the approval of a site plan, a subdivision plan, or other authorized development plan or permit for any property. So I'll pause right there real fast. You have 3-4 ways to get out of having to do a buffer, getting the clear cutting permit. You go through the site plan process. You know what's going to go there. You go through the site plan process with TRC. Subdivision. You may not know entirely what's going to go there, but you're subdividing it out for use. You go through that process with TRC. Or if it's a single small lot, you get a zoning compliance permit through staff, internally administratively reviewed by myself and our city planner, Claudia. So you have 3 ways right there. I'm sure there are other ways, but typically that's the 3 that you see. If you do not want to go through any of those processes, you're not ready, you don't have any idea what you're going to put there, you don't know how you want to subdivide it. You get a clear cutting permit, and you can cut down the trees, you leave the 25-foot buffer. And this is just for residential. The buffer, the intent there is to protect the neighboring property owners from whatever activity you may have that's going on, and also for the aesthetic realm of the public viewer, that you're not seeing a scarred, tree stumped property that's really unaesthetic for the community. If no development approval is obtained, as I mentioned, then the buffer needs to be left. The exemption for residential properties. Residential parcels may be cleared completely, no buffer required to be left, if they obtain development approval within 3 years from the date of issuance of the permit. So if they want to obtain a clear cutting permit to cut down everything, we will approve that. However, they have to develop or obtain a development approval within 3 years.
That means start work?
That means clear the property completely.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like you get the permit first and then gets the approval. You got to get the approval first, right? Before you.
Well, it depends on the route you take. So if you go the site plan approval route, subdivision approval route, you do not have to get a clear cutting permit, because once you have your approval, you can clear it all. You don't have to get a clear cutting permit. The clear cutting permit comes into play when you don't know what you want to do. You know you want the trees gone, but you don't know what you want to put there. You don't know how you want to divide it up, what that's going to look like. You want to get it site ready, as people in the community have called it. You want to get it prepped.
Mm-hmm. But you got different ways you can do that. Either the site plan was good enough.
Yep, you can do a site plan, which goes to TRC, and there is a site plan checklist with requirements that have to be met, such as, to just provide you off the top of my head a few examples, it has to be to scale. It has to have a north arrow. You have to show any infrastructure, horizontal or vertical, that's going to go in. You have to show a building footprint, proposed parking, landscaping, man-made features, natural features. And again, all of it has to be to scale. If the developer himself or one of his team can develop that plan to that scale and meet those requirements, that will be acceptable. Often what we see is that comes from a design professional. But if someone else can provide that with that level of detail, then sure. You can go through the site plan review process or the subdivision process. Now, subdivision would come from a surveyor. Licensed surveyor has to do a subdivision. But essentially, yes, we could go about it through site plan, subdivision, or if it's a one-off stick build or something, through internal staff review. But the exemption, back to the exemption, allows it to be completely cleared. They would be required to grade, grub, reseed the parcel once it's cleared, but they do not have to leave that buffer, but they would have to get the development approval within 3 years. To ensure that they get the development approval, that we have some way to remedy the parcel and replant the buffer, if they fail to get a development approval, we would require a bond for the cost of the buffer. I'm not a forester. Staff would not determine the cost of that bond. We would require the applicant to provide reasonable evidence to support the cost at which they're willing to provide for that bond. So whoever they're working with, their forester, their logger, would need to work up a cost and present that to us with reasonable evidence as to why you're saying $100 would be enough to replant it, or 100,000, whatever that number is. They would provide that number. They are the professionals, and they provide that number with supporting evidence, and we will accept that as their bond. Number 3, section 3, mirrors that exactly. Except for commercial, they only have to provide that 25-foot buffer on the commercial property line that abuts residential. Same for industrial. So if there is no abutting property line to residential, they can cut everything down. No buffer has to be left. They can cut everything down. Only a buffer has to be left on the commercial property line side that abuts residential. So that might be one side, that might be 2 sides, it might be 3 sides. You're gonna have a side that fronts the road, so you're at least gonna have one side that doesn't have to have a buffer.
Why does the commercial get away with just that and the others have all 4 sides?
So that is based on feedback that we've received from the public and from council. In the many discussions that we've had with council about this, the primary reason for wanting the clear cutting policy to change, to be amended, is so that commercial developers can come in and get a site ready. So that when we have a Target or a Home Depot or a hotel itching to move here,
Right.
they can come to a property that's ready to go. And this ordinance provides for that. We have reduced the buffer requirement as far as staff feels appropriate to accommodate all parties involved. The concerns regarding the buffer have all been from residential property owners who feel that when properties are cleared adjacent to them and they're cleared to the property line, it damages their quality of life. They were there first, you know, they have this expectation of privacy, and the buffer provides privacy. But again, it gets back to aesthetics as well. There are some environmental concerns. The buffer, depending on where the property is located, may help to alleviate stormwater runoff. As we've heard tonight, that's a concern in the community. So the buffer can play several parts.
I guess my question is on the residential, if it's abutting a road,
That speaks to the aesthetic need that the community's expressed to us. So that you don't have, again, a massive cleared parcel where development is not occurring actively that you're seeing from the road. It's the commercial properties that it's been expressed to us from the development community. They have a desire to clear on the road frontage side so that they can market it.
I'm assuming what you're talking about logging, there's environmental stuff that they have to follow, is that correct?
Certainly, yes. Under those general requirements in section 1, that's where prior to the issuance of a clear cutting permit, the applicant must present all required documentation and or permits from the North Carolina Department of Environmental Quality for review by staff. So I can't get into the detail of everything that the state requires. I don't work for the state. But we have local regulations. It's okay.
Don't worry about that.
No
We had
worries.
it cut off.
We've all got lives outside of here. It's okay. But yeah, so the state has their requirements for erosion control, stormwater, things like that, and that's reviewed by the state, and it will meet the state standard. We have the local responsibility as a delegated authority to enforce the watershed rules. So we will have environmental concerns that we will enforce depending on where the property is located, if it falls in one of those regions or if it's in a floodplain, and then the state has theirs. And we required that as number 2 so that staff can ensure that they have the proper documents from DEQ. And that recommendation to include that language comes straight from DEQ. DEQ said that it is in our best interest, for the city's sake, to require copies of those documents before we approve anything. So we are requiring that. Certainly. So back to commercial property. That buffer is only required on that residential side if there is a residential side. And the exemption stands exactly the same. They could clear the entire parcel, leave no buffer at all, if they got a development approval within 5 years. We went with 5 years for commercial. We understand sometimes it takes a little bit longer. to find a commercial developer or a business that might be interested. There's a lot of moving parts with commercial, not to say there aren't with residential, but there are a lot of moving parts. So we provided that exemption. Again, a bond would be required. The developer would get to determine what that bond is within reason, providing evidence to support their claim of what that amount would be. For residential, we stuck with 3 years because that mirrors the violation process, which I will speak on now, unless you have questions, further questions about commercial. Okay, so section 4 is the violation process. Building permits, site plans, and subdivision plans shall be denied by staff to the owner of any property for a period of 3 years after the completion of removal of trees from the required perimeter buffer zone if the removal of the trees results in the removal of all or substantially all of the trees that were protected under this ordinance from the tract of land for which the permit plan approval is sought. So what that means, and this is exactly what our ordinance already says, this is rolled over, we did not change the language. If somebody violates the provisions of this ordinance, they cut a buffer down that would have had to stay, we will deny them. We shall, as staff, I have no wiggle room here to work with anybody, deny them any development approval for 3 years, be it commercial, residential, industrial. That mirrors what we do currently. We did not change that. We did not feel necessary to make that more strict or to increase that time frame. 3 years is plenty. And that follows the parcel, not the person.
My question is, if the developer or whoever posted a bond, you gave him permission to clear cut it completely. And if he doesn't build his thing and all, you've kept his money.
Well, we use the bond money. The city would not keep it. The city would use that money to put the buffer back.
Right. So there wasn't any trees really exempted because he covered that when he got the bond. I mean, you gave him permission to clear cut then.
Well, the exemption is for clear cutting, provided that they develop within that time frame. If they don't develop within that time frame or get an approval, then their exemption is not valid. That's the way that section is worded.
But you keep his bond and then you penalize him 3 years, he can't get any permits.
No. The 3 years is only if he violates the buffer without a permit. So if they don't come to us to get a clear cutting permit and they say, this is my property, I'm gonna cut it down if I want to. There are cases like that we've dealt with over the years.
Yeah.
That's why the violations provision's in there. If they don't come and get the permit, they don't seek guidance from staff, and they choose to just come in and cut it all down, whether it was blissful ignorance or on purpose, that would stand.
My point is, when you gave him a bond, even though you can keep the bond and replace the stuff, you're still penalizing him.
No, sir. No, it doesn't apply to that. This is only for people who come in and cut it down with no approvals of any kind. The bond process happens when they obtain a clear cutting permit. So they obtain a permit, they convey to us that they would like to go through that exemption process to cut down everything and give us the bond.
Yeah.
And we say, okay, you got 3 years, your shot clock starts now, the date of issuance of the permit. Give us the bond money, you can begin work. So they begin work, they cut everything down. 3 years passes, let's say it's changed hands. The site has not been developed. We use that money from the bond to repair the buffer. Nobody else is penalized, there's no penalty. Someone else could come right back in, go through a site plan review, and immediately get approval to develop that site.
And if they start development in the 3 years, then they get the bond money back.
Well, the bond money's been spent to replant the buffer, but yes, in the case that they do.
They succeeded.
They succeed, yes, then they get their money back.
Mm-hmm.
The city doesn't keep the money. And that's just an effort to be aware of the fact that with marketing, sometimes you need to cut everything down. Sometimes you have a entity on the cusp of signing a contract with you, and you're just not quite there yet. You know what's gonna happen, closing takes time, what have you, and you wanna go ahead and get it site ready, but you know what's gonna happen. You're confident it's gonna happen, and you wanna go ahead and do everything, then that's fine. If they get their development approval within 30 days of giving us the bond, we give the bond right back. We don't keep it for 3 years. As soon as they get their development approval, we give it back. So we're not interested in keeping anybody's money. So that's all I have for you in relation to the details of the ordinance itself. As I mentioned, it was originally adopted in 2006. After considerable input from the local community, council heard it at the time and decided to implement a clear-cutting policy. So this has been 20 years in the making that this policy's been in existence, and that there has been support from the community to have a policy like this. We are relaxing it significantly. Right now, we require a 50-foot buffer, 25-foot in some places, but generally speaking, a 50-foot buffer. For apparent environmental and aesthetic reasons, the public petitioned staff to keep some buffer for residential areas. Staff asked that the board consider the proposed policy amendment and provide us with direction on which course of action we should pursue. Do you like the amendment as it's been provided? Do you have concerns with the amendment as it's been provided? Again, you make a recommendation, and then this goes to council for consideration. So now is the time to recommend any sort of changes to the policy that you might feel are unjust. We did try, as I've noted, to balance the policy between the developer's concerns and the concerns of the public and environmental concerns. The city's gonna grow. How do we wanna see it grow? Ultimately, staff does recommend the adoption of the proposed text amendment. And I'll take any more questions.
So for residential properties, 25 foot,
All
all
sides.
sides, including the side that faces the road.
Yes, sir. I believe that is how it was written. I can reread it.
Yes. It says
Yep.
all property boundaries and right of ways.
All property boundaries and right-of-ways, yes, sir. We did not provide an exemption for public or versus private right-of-ways, just all right-of-ways.
We do public for this too.
I'm sorry?
We do public for this too. Public.
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Yep. Mhm.
Okay.
Yep. Are there any other questions for me?
All process behind that, you said it was strictly for aesthetics for that 25 foot on the road?
Aesthetics and privacy, I mean, I guess it depends on how the property abuts the neighbors. It could be for privacy purposes, but aesthetically, yes, the feedback we've received from the community that we've echoed in this policy is that when they're driving through Reidsville, you might recall South Park. This was an issue with South Park when we did that rezoning for the townhomes. They were concerned that now their quiet, pristine community, neighborhood, you're gonna drive down there and you're gonna see clear-cut land until it's developed, ultimately. So this is to protect the community from that aesthetic perspective.
I'm just gonna tell you, we still see clear-cut land.
You can still see it. The argument that's been made is it worse to look through a few trees or to have no trees? So that's what we've reflected in this policy, is at least a brief minor consideration for the public right-of-way and passerbys.
Thank you, Drew.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone here to speak for the consideration of this text amendment request? Is there anyone here to speak against it? Excuse me. Hearing none, at this time we'll have board discussion. What's your pleasure? Any more discussion? Any discussion? You good? If no discussion, can I entertain a motion to consider to approve the text amendment?
Yes, I'll make a motion to recommend the proposed text amendment, T 2025-07.
Second.
All right. It has been moved and properly second. Now we're ready for the vote. All in favor? Majority? All right, thank you. And the consideration for the text amendment has been recommended. All right. Thank you, board. At this time, we're going to have our director's report.
So we have, quite, I don't want to say quite a a few, but several businesses and activities that are ongoing. I'm sure we are all aware of them all. There's not a lot that I have on paper that I would feel comfortable discussing. I know other representatives of the city have discussed it much more thoroughly than I have. But we are aware of what's going on at the mall. We do not see any hangups really. We're working with the developer to make sure everything moves forward smoothly, expediting the process with him as much as possible. One thing to note there is there is a special use permit over the mall. Excuse me, and you may recall, when we started doing the UDO stuff a few, I don't know, years ago now, 2 years ago, it was noted by our consultant how quasi-judicial items such as special use permits are supposed to be decided in the hearing in which they are heard. And that ultimately at the adoption of the UDO, special use permits will not come before this board unless they go directly to Board of Adjustment, and that's where they're decided final decision. Otherwise, it'll just go to council. So heeding that advice and legal advice that we received, if an amendment to the special use permit for the mall happens, it will not come before you. It will go directly to council. While the UDO has not been adopted yet, that is the legal process that we should be following. And our ordinance has it coming to you guys, but the deciding body is council. So we will, in an effort to keep everything transparent and legal, in line with the general statute of 160D, well, it'll go straight to council. I just want to be clear with you guys about that, so we're not trying to cut you out of the decision-making process. But your recommendation on a quasi-judicial item, where ultimately I'm presenting outside evidence that's not heard at the meeting, where the decision is made, is a violation. So you will not hear, if we make amendments to the special use permit for the mall, as development progresses, you will not hear it. If there's a text amendment regarding the special use permit standards, you will hear it. So we'll put that on your radar. But the amendment to the permit itself, you will not, because that is quasi-judicial. So that is there. Lots of retail activity, restaurant activity are centered around the mall. I do not want to divulge too many details, but what's been shared with me is that it is active. You're gonna see the revitalization of that mall, and it looks very exciting. Existing businesses, new businesses, businesses that have been closed for a while. So staff's excited. We're ready to work with the developer to make it happen. In other news, there are a few things going on downtown. We've had some inquiries about some businesses in and around the downtown area. And I did want to mention a new team member that we have. If you want to stand up for a second, Robin. Some of you may know her. This is Mrs. Robin Yant. She is a blessing. She was your Main Street manager downtown, so she's worked with quite a few of you. She has come to us as our new representative for customer service, and she will serve as your clerk for the board. Transitioning to allow Claudia to do a little bit more presenting as we go forward. But Robin is part of our team now, and we are so thrilled that we were able to snag her. So thrilled. She's got a few more years with the city, looking forward to her retirement, but she's got a few more years, and we are so happy to have her bring her knowledge and her skills and her relationships with the downtown community to our department. So we just wanted to introduce her.
Absolutely.
You'll see her face here going forward. Welcome aboard.
Welcome. Robin has helped me so much in the past, so welcome to planning.
We love her. So,
Absolutely.
That's really all I have for you. The mall's been the big thing on our radar, trying to move forward. And of course, these policies, clear cutting, curb and gutter, no curb and gutter, when last month one was approved with minor deviations. But yeah, we're seeing that development activity kick back up now that we're kind of through the holiday.
Right.
We are seeing permits start to trickle in for residential, commercial, country clubs got some activity going on. Did we approve it today, the permit? Yep, so we approved the permit today for the pool house situation. I don't know if it's just a pool house or if there's gonna be other services offered from that structure. But it's based on the existing footprint, and we were pending a site plan submittal. We received that from the developer. So that is full steam ahead. They're working with inspections and building permitting at this time to get all the required approvals. And hopefully you'll see some development out there soon. So revitalization of another kind of cornerstone of Reidsville's culture and history. That's really great. That's really
Everything
all.
is
Do you
progressing.
have any concerns or questions or things you've seen that you want to mention? I see that.
These residentials that we've been
So,
approving, speaking of South Park is something I've totally forgotten about. Is that,
as far
going
as I
anywhere?
know, not with South Park. And I don't want to attest to anything too sternly because I haven't had any contact with the developer that originally came before you in quite some time. So I don't know what is going on there. I don't know if the property's for sale. I know that's been a rumor. I don't know if it's changed developers. I do not know what's going on with South Park. I can tell you with some of the more recent ones that you've heard, Ashcroft is going through plan review. We've got a couple of other Ashcroft-esque developments that are in the works in that same area, same neighborhood, same community. So that's really all I can share about those, but we're working through the Ashcroft on the northern side, through their plan review. We went through Woodside Drive's plan review. We sent comments today.
Which one?
We did Freedom Academy today. We did Woodside Drive recently. So that was one you heard that's gonna be 80 units, 79 units. Last week. Yeah, last week. So that one's moving along. I don't think we had any substantial comments, so they're nearing the approval phase of that project. I think they're working on like infrastructure CDs at this point. So they, I believe, have gotten their stamped approvals from engineering and everybody, so they're ready to move forward and start pulling permits at their leisure. Liberty Road, I don't have an update for you on. At the beginning of last year, we made contact with them and they reassured us that they are working on that project. It's been cost of materials and time and money and manpower, but they are still moving forward on that project.
Reed School Road?
that's beginning of last year, you said?
That was beginning of 25.
Is that Reed School Road you talking about?
No,
No.
that's McCoy and Liberty. That's the big, approximately 400 homes that'll be in 3 phases. Reed School Road, that's their traditional neighborhood development. Gosh, it's been about a year since y'all heard that one too. They're moving along. Yep, they're still in a review phase. There were some changes made to their overall plan to relocate garages from having to be rear access to allow them to be side front access as long as you weren't doing like a snout house situation, to continue to comply with our traditional neighborhood standards that you also reviewed and adopted about a year ago under Jason Harden. So they're trucking along slowly, but they're getting there. So I would say in the next, probably what will happen is in the next 6 months to a year, everything's
Everything's
gonna
gonna-
break ground.
Salem Church?
Yeah,
Salem Church?
I haven't heard anything from Salem
Okay.
Church recently. I know they were kind of waiting, I think, on the curbing gutter and clear cutting stuff. Not because they're gonna change their plan necessarily, I haven't heard
Right.
that. But I think they were just trying to see the direction that the city's gonna take on some of these things. But that's just, again, from internal feedback I've received from council and other staff.
Gibbs Lake?
Gibbs Lake is going through the review process. They just dropped off a plan this week. So we're reviewing that actively. We'll get comments
Gibbs
back to
Lake.
them on the 27th. So that one's happening. If I recall, that one was 150 something, somewhere around 150. So yeah, we've got quite a lot of activity that's going on, and with just 2 staff, we're just working through the
Busy.
review process on everything.
And last but not least, the Popeyes.
I was excited. I was so excited for Popeyes, but I haven't heard anything about Popeyes. They went through the subdivision, through the outer parcel. I don't know if they ever recorded it, but I know I signed it. And,
Okay.
they've got everything they need from us. They can go out there and break ground. I don't know.
More restaurants, period? Any more restaurants?
As far as new restaurants, nothing on paper that I can share with you. I would continue to look at them all. That's what I would do. I would continue to look at the mall and the other properties on the out parcel area of the mall. I know we have some great investment opportunity if you're interested in some of our places downtown. I don't know where our economic developer and his team are at with it, but Cafe 99 still making.
Yeah, I know.
There's been some interest in adding some kitchen space or potential rental space for like food trucks and stuff
Yeah,
downtown.
yeah.
I don't really know where those conversations landed. There's a path forward, but it might not be a direct path for some of these different ventures. So,
That would be good.
yeah. Was there a? Yeah, there's a Hispanic market that will open on Freeway. We're currently looking at that, so that's exciting.
Yeah.
If you're looking for authentic. Yes, I think it's in the Libby Hill.
Yeah, I remember you said that last month.
I mentioned that a while back, but it'll be like a bakery, a meat market, fresh goods, handmade goods and consumables. So I'm really excited for that.
Yeah, absolutely. Look at Reidsville.
That'll be really nice. Some
Yes,
diversity around.
absolutely.
Instead of 3 food lines.
I know. Absolutely. Thank you so much, Drew. Thank you for, yeah, the mall looks good already.
Yeah, I
Just with the
think
trees and
everybody's
stuff
so
down.
excited.
Oh, yeah, the public is definitely excited about it. So we're looking forward to see the revitalization out there at Penrose. Planning board members' comments, anything?
Just one thing, and it's not really this, but if you haven't been in the new Walmart, when I walked in the other day, that mural
Yes.
on the wall when you come in on the grocery side, I mean, it sets Reidsville, it shows football, it shows the Lake Reidsville. I mean, it's a great big wall and it's painted. And when I walked by, I said, whoa, wait a minute.
Inside.
Inside, as you're going in on the grocery
Okay.
store side, and it's right there on the left, it's where
Oh, that's
the drink machines and everything used to be on the inside. Just walk in there if you haven't seen that mural.
Okay.
It's fantastic. It really set Reidsville, you know, it kind of depicted everything that we do, sports, Lake Reidsville, you know, everything like
Everything out
that.
there. Go check that out. It definitely looks nice out there. Yeah, can't find anything now, but it looks nice.
You can find anything for now, but just imagine when you go to every Walmart across the country, everything will be in the same place.
Yeah, I mean, you know, you knew where you were going with it, but it looks really nice out there.
Food Line's about to do the same thing.
Oh, okay.
All Food Line stores are being, and this is from someone that works at Food Line, so this is not from staff permits that we've received or anything, but Food Line's going through a similar update, rebrand process, so be prepared.
Here for that. Did Dunkin' Donuts open up yet?
I don't know.
I know they, okay, not
I
yet.
saw that they have their menu.
Yeah, they have
and stuff
everything
up, and they've
out.
got like everything in there, the tables and the chairs.
Yeah,
What's that, huh?
The
Dunkin' Donuts
There's
at
one.
Walmart, inside the Walmart.
Is it Dunkin' Donuts and Walmart?
They've already put it out.
Everything's there.
They're ready to go. I don't know. I guess they need to hire some people.
Yeah,
But I could use an iced coffee.
I know. Oh.
The grocery store coming to Reidsville anytime soon.
Other than the Mercado, no.
Yeah.
No,
I mean, I like
nothing
shopping,
that I've
I
heard.
like shopping Food Line, but it's,
We got Walmart, Food Line, and Lowe's Foods.
I don't like shopping at certain
days and certain times.
Right.
You probably won't like shopping it this week. With all the,
I know. I'm going after here.
Yeah, so go get your bread and your
That's
eggs and
right,
your milk,
that's
all the
right.
perishables, you know. Yeah. Yeah, just so your power can go
That's
up.
it. That's right.
I know the city's doing a lot, and our lovely
In the
new,
preparation.
Public Works Director, he is prepping for the snow, and if you didn't catch him on the news, find that clip and watch it back. Grace is great. But yeah, we're prepping, city's exactly working to prepare for whatever 1 to 1,000 inches we may get. this
Wow, wow. Well, thank you, board, for all you do, and thank you for being here. So at this time, would someone move to adjourn this meeting?
Move to adjourn.
All right, all in favor? All right, meeting adjourned.